Hi, it's Katie. Welcome to another food prep video. This week I have some lunch meat that I'm going to slice up and put in the freezer. To get ready for my meals, for my falafel meal, I need to sprout some chickpeas and make the pita bread dough. For the sausage sandwich meal, I'm going to bake the rolls from frozen. And for some basic prep, I want to make a loaf of sandwich bread and some peanut butter. So this is the lunch meat that I bought at Costco. They're big chunks. They're very reasonably priced per pound. And I have this electric slicer, so it's awesome, and you get really high quality lunch meat for a fraction of the price. So I'm going to go ahead and slice up. This is turkey breast, and I also have ham. And I was able to slice it very thin, just like you would get in the deli. This electric slicer is an investment my husband got for beef jerky, but I love to use it for this lunch meat too. I know a lot of people don't have it, so I went ahead and sliced some with just a sharp knife, and it wasn't as beautifully shaved thin as with the electric slicer, but it did a perfectly adequate job. So that's all of my lunch meat all sliced up. It was quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and pack it up for the freezer. You can see there's just a little bit of crumbs left over. I'm just going to collect all those crumbs and put those in my eggs for the morning. So I'm going to pack the lunch meat up. I'm doing a half a pound of ham and a half a pound of turkey, and I'm going to go ahead and pack them together. I haven't done this before, so I don't know if there's going to be some flavor transfer or anything like that. This is all going to go on the same sandwiches anyway, so it's not something that concerns me. And I just thought it would be easier to have them together so I wouldn't have to search through my freezer looking for both the ham and the turkey. So I'm going to just food savor these up and have them ready to go. There they all ready to go. I think there was 5 packs of the turkey and ham, and then I saved those thicker slices of the ham that I sliced with my knife. There they are. Figured that would be good for breakfast sandwiches or for a breakfast for dinner meal or something. And I'm going to go ahead and put those in the freezer. So for my falafel meal, I'm going to sprout some chickpeas. I tried sprouting beans in my last meal prep video. It wasn't exactly perfect, I don't think. I think chickpeas, I heard, are one of the easier beans to sprout. So I'm going to try again. I'm just doing 1 cup at a time. That's what they look like after they soaked for 12 hours. I'm going to give them a good rinse, and then I'm going to spread them out on this tray here. I think maybe what I did last time wrong was I had them in too deep of a bowl, so they didn't have enough airflow. So I'm spreading them out a little bit more to see if that helps. And then I'm just covering them with a towel, and I'm going to leave them on the counter. So after they sit on the counter for about 12 hours, so this would be the 24-hour mark, they're already starting to sprout. You can see tiny little tails on some of the beans right there and there. And I think that this, like I said, these beans sprout a little bit easier. This is what it looked like at the 48-hour mark, and lots of them are nicely sprouted. I don't need to use these for another day, so I just put them in a plastic container and put them in the fridge until I was ready to make my falafel. I'm going to go ahead and make the pita bread dough as well, and I'm not going to make the pita bread today, I'm just making the dough, and I will link to this recipe down below. It's a whole wheat pita bread recipe. It turns out really simple, and they bake in the oven in just a few minutes. So once I have the dough ready, I can make these the day that I need them pretty simply. So I'm just kneading it by hand, and once I have my dough ready, I'm going to put it in this plastic container. I'm going to coat the outside of the dough ball with a little bit of extra olive oil. I'm going to pull that out and spread that oil all over just so that the dough doesn't dry out when it's thawing. And I'm going to pop this in the freezer, and then the morning of the day that I'm going to make my pita bread, I will take it out and thaw it in the refrigerator. Alright, so some more bread here. These are the rolls for my sausage sandwiches, and I didn't do this ahead. I did this the day that we ate them, but I wanted to show you because I showed you how I packed these up in my last food prep video, so I wanted to show you how they ended up turning out. So I think the wax paper was kind of a mistake. It did a good job keeping them from sticking together, but the wax paper kind of stuck to the rolls. And the rolls kind of were smashed in this plastic container, and they kind of got a little deformed, So I don't know. I think maybe butcher paper or freezer paper or parchment paper even, I'm not sure. Something other than wax paper would have been a better option. Or I could have frozen them uncovered, and then once they were firm, I could have packed them up. And like I said, they're a little bit mangled, but I wanted to proceed just to see how they would turn out. After they have thawed and risen a little bit, I was able to pull the last little bits of wax paper off of them, and I baked them. They ended up turning out fine, even though they were a little mangled. When they rise, they just kind of, forgives all of those sins. So they turned out fine in the end. So this is the last of the bread for this week, and again, this is the sandwich loaves that I made and formed in my last video. And again, I wrapped them in some wax paper and froze them, and it worked out really nice to have them all ready to go. It just took 5 minutes to grease up my bread pan, take the wax paper off. This was the hardest part, picking off all the little bits of wax paper, and then just throw that frozen loaf into the pan and then just let it thaw and rise together. It took like maybe 2 hours, I think. And then once it was puffed up, I probably left it a little bit too long. You can see it's a little bit over puffed, but that's all right. There it is, going into the oven, and then it baked. So the hands-on time was very minimal, and I got a fresh loaf of baked bread with not a lot of hassle. So once the bread has fully cooled, I'm gonna go ahead and slice it up. And I'm getting a little bit better at slicing it. I think it just takes some practice. I have this bread knife from my block set, and it's a nice enough knife, but the serrations are kind of coarse, and I think it's a little bit much for soft bread like this sandwich loaf. So if any of you who make sandwich bread regularly, if you have a favorite bread knife, leave me a comment down below. I'd like to maybe invest in a better bread knife to slice my bread up. And to go on all of that delicious homemade bread, I'm going to make some peanut butter. And I like to make my own peanut butter. I've always been sort of interested in making homemade peanut butter ever since they had those peanut grinding machines in grocery stores when I was a kid. And I can make it in my Vitamix. So I have made it a couple times before, and I really like the finished product. And it's very cost effective. So I'm going to roast these raw peanuts. You need to roast them to get the oils to come out to make nice, creamy, smooth peanut butter. And once you roast them, you need to make sure that they're fully cooled, or else you can damage your blender. So I actually made mine the night before. So this is the next day. I'm going to go ahead and put them in my Vitamix and grind them up until they're smooth. And I'm going to use my tamper, so I took the little knob out of the lid. If you have a food processor, you would just need to stop every so often and use a spatula and scrape down the sides until it's smooth and creamy. And I will leave a link to a website that has a lot of information about this. You can really damage your Vitamix if you don't know what you're doing, so make sure you read about making nut butters before you start. And as the peanuts are ground up, the friction just causes a lot of heat. So it looks a little bit runny because it's still warm, but it sets up perfectly fine. And I store mine in the refrigerator. So while it's still warm, you want to go ahead and transfer it to another container. I'm just using a mason jar, and it's a lot easier to get out of the blender if you do it right away. So I learned that the hard way the first time. And then with whatever is left over in the blender pitcher, just make a smoothie. So throw some frozen bananas and almond milk and make yourself a peanut butter banana smoothie. Alright, so that's everything I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks.